Detour Gold. With that, Gerald, I think you have to wait till it hits 0 and then you can start.
Okay. Thank you, Anita. Thank you very much for coming this morning when everybody left for the airport. And with all of this, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to the presentation of Gold Terra. Of course, Gold Terra is a small junior exploring in Canada with a focus on high-grade gold. The main reason why I focus on high-grade gold, I find that you go through gold cycle much better than you would in other case. So with all due respect, we're going to go through the forward-looking statement and, of course, a cautionary statement as a disclosure. Everything can be found on our website, and it's fully disclosed. And what is our strategy? Our strategy is very simple. Canada, U.S., safe jurisdiction, high-grade mineralization, which is, I think, a much better environment to find gold deposits which are high-grade. And if you can put your hands on a very good belt, which has delivered 14 million ounces of gold at between 15 to 22 gram gold, this is very important. This is what makes money. You're getting a break margin. You don't have to invest as much as a low-grade deposit, like we did at Detour back then. And of course, you can explore because you're in town. The fact that we are in the Yellowknife City or within 20 kilometers of the city is very important. Just an example, our cost of drilling is $200 per meter Canadian, all in. Our focus, of course, the high grade along the Campbell Shear. Campbell Shear produced 14 million ounces of gold before, over a very small strike line, roughly 3 to 5 kilometers. We have an option also to purchase 100% of the con mine that we signed 2 years ago as part of our strategy. We've already drilled more than 20,000 meters. By the end of this year, we will have reached 30,000 meters along the Campbell Shear. And of course, we've already grown our resource from 1.2 million ounces to close to 1.8 million ounces with a focus, again, on high grade. And of course, there's a good experiment management, which I will talk a little bit later. But in a sense, this is our growth. We've already, increased our resource back of September 2022. So we've got one more year of drilling done. Likelihood will be to have a resource sometime in 2024, likely followed by the PEA that will basically explain how we are thinking about putting the project together for a mine. I'm not going to talk and spend too much time on the past, but one of the qualities I always wanted to put together was choosing the right people to build a mine. And I think we've demonstrated that during the days of Detour. When I founded Detour, purchased the Detour Lake mine, was purchased for $75 million Canadian, and the company was sold years later, approximately 12 years later, for about $5 billion after finding 30 million ounces of gold during my tenure. I surround myself with people like Mark Brown, an very knowledgeable mining CFO. Paul Bonneville just joined our board in replacement of Louis Dion, who stays. And Louis Dion was the Camflo mine manager at Barrick when Peter Mong bought Camflo mine to become Barrick Gold. I've known Louis for 30 years. He's probably one of the best mining engineers. And that's how we build companies, with the right people. Of course, we have a big project, which is basically the 900 square kilometers property that we own. We have a land package that covers the Campbell Shear, over 70 kilometers of strike line. And remember, the Campbell Shear was only mined over 5 kilometers. And we control 70 kilometers. More of those deposits can be found because they were very underexplored for many, many years. Just to give you an example, since Miramar closed the mine in 2003, when gold price was $325 an ounce, there's been no systematic exploration along the Campbell Shear. And it's in town. It's not far from town. Like I said, $200 per meters all in is a very good, I think, a very good opportunity for people to realize that we can find gold for much less than others. It also, when I talk about $200 a meters, it's actually operating costs and drilling costs move along with location, logistic. As you move further away from a town, the costs increase because it's all about logistic and location and infrastructures. This is a snapshot of the con mine, which was completely reclaimed, 98% by Newmont over the last 14 years, basically, since 2008, that has produced 6 million ounces between 16 to 20 grams. You have the town of Yellowknife in the background, almost 20,000 people. They're all back from the fire evacuation. And of course, you can see that some infrastructure are left, such as the collar for the Robertson shaft that goes down to 1,900 meters, as well as a warehouse, a water treatment plant. So there's a lot of good infrastructure already that we can use if we go back into the Con mine. So what do we need to do for going back in the Con mine? They left 650,000 ounces of gold. The Con mine property is the yellow box at the bottom of this screen. And what you can see right there is the deal that we did with Newmont over a period of 4 years to spend at least $8 million, found 1.5 million ounces, and of course, how is the potential? But already, we would get 650,000 ounces of gold, which is very important. Now, on the next slide, we're going to show you a little bit of a 3D model of the mine, just to give you an example how much we are knowledgeable about this. So basically starting with the Con mine, which is in yellow, and showing you a little bit of the progress. You can see the Campbell shear and the Con shear, and finally, you can see the Robertson shaft that goes down to 1,900 meters. It was serviced in 1977. It's an excellent infrastructure that can be reutilized if we need to use it. This is basically the envelope of the Campbell shear. It's a big, big shear zone that strike for, like I said before, 70 kilometers. In the red, you can see all of the information that is the envelope of the shear zone, and everything that was yellow, red, or purple was mine. You can see also all the development. But more importantly, I'd like to show you a little bit of a small zone that was not mine before the mine closed in 2003. It was starting to define the zone, and the zone basically show you the potential at depth, because there's no other drilling below it, of grade up to 534 grams over 20 meters. We call that a jewelry pocket. 20 over 7, 22 over 12, and of course, what you have there is an amazing potential for finding more high grade. And this, when we compile the mine, we realized that we could have another 2 or 3 or 4 million ounces below the mine at 10 to 20 grams. And that's our target. And when you look at the potential of this operation, I know it's not ever going to be a big mine. The big guys will never be interested. But if you have 150,000 ounces production at 15 to 20 grams in $1,900 gold, remember, at $1,800 gold, a ton of ore at 10 grams is worth $600 per ton. There's a lot of money and a lot of cushion to make the operation successful. So we decided basically to drill. And of course, I just show you a lot about the Campbell shear, but just in section, the two zones, Con shear and Campbell shear, are dipping to the west steeply. They're both very important in the context of what we know. And it's part of the first effort we did in the first years after we signed the deal with Newmont in November 2021 was to find how much gold there is near surface. Because there were indications of the Campbell shear to be important there. So we decided to keep drilling and drill for about 23,000 meters of drilling up to about last September. And we outlined 540,000 ounces of measured and indicated and inferred resource at a grade of approximately 7 to 8 grams. The bulk of it is right where the yellow X is, which is the main zone of yellow X, where we have about 300,000 ounces with two beautiful zones that are 6 meters each in width that could be done long hole, mechanized long hole probably. We can drive a ram, develop the mine, but what it gives us, that 540,000 ounces, and maybe a bit more, is the first 5 years of the mine, which will allow us to dewater the mine deeper eventually, and eventually go underground, because our target that we show you in the 3D model is right below the mine. There's approximately 1 million ounces every 200 meters vertical. So there's a potential to find another 2 million ounces over the next 400 meters below the mine. We already have a shaft in very good condition that can be dewatered and resurfaced at 1,900 meters. We're not very far. We don't need to sink the shaft deeper. We can just drive a ram like they started to do as well. And as again, this is the perfect example of the high-grade nature of that deposit that goes from 20 gram to up to 500 gram when you hit a jewelry pocket. So it's an excellent target. And the drill hole that we currently are doing, that we started towards the end of April, is almost near the Campbell Shear target. Stay tuned. It's going to happen very soon. Within the next month, we should be through the Campbell Shear. We should be able to press release the core that we will have recovered from these depths. And of course, the assay will follow after. And we're very excited because in reality, when you look at the potential of the Campbell Shear, you're looking at an amazing opportunity to find 1 to 2 million ounces at 10 to 20 grams per ton. And I think this is very important in our profile of our company to establish a good resource that will become reserve eventually on the Con mine and allowed us to purchase the property and assume the liability. Now, the Con mine story is still very good, and it's still a very important part of our company. But don't forget that we control a property over 900 square kilometers, 70 kilometers of the Campbell Shear, plus secondary shear zone that are basically part of the system of the Campbell Shear, where, for example, we developed and found 300,000 ounces on the Crest Arm Shears, which is located 20 kilometers north of town, with a permanent road that goes all the way to the deposit. It's important. Crest Arm is 300,000 ounces at 6 grams, open pittable, right at surface. We would have, when we start the operation, if we are to start one, in our plan would be to mine the Con mine at surface and the Crest Arm open pit and put the mill next to the Crest Arm pit. The main reason being that it will become the hub for multi-mineralization to be found north of town, such as Miss Pickle that we drill in 2022. It's not going to be a big target, but it could be 500,000 to 1 million ounces at 20 to 30 grams like we've done. For example, we basically, on that section that we're showing you, was drilled in the winter of 2022, about a year and a half ago. We didn't go back this year because the money supply was not there and we had to focus on the Con mine. But in reality, we have beautiful quartz vein system that could supplement a mill with maybe a small production, 400, 500 tons per day. Not a big production, but a very high-grade, profitable production, which is only 10 kilometers away from where we plan to put the mill. And finally, when we talk about different things such as environment, engagement plan, look, I was very, very fortunate through my career. I've been in this industry for almost 40 years. I worked at Barrick for 12 years, built 2 mines in Tanzania. The best thing you learn as you travel the world and you relate with community, local people, is listen to what they need. The best practice for ESG is very simple. Listen to your host. You are a guest, and behave like a guest. And I think it's the profile that we've had, because I built Sulawaka, Buzwagi, and Detour, and never had a blockade or never had something negative against the 3 mines that I've been involved building. And that's very important, and that's our philosophy as well in Yellowknife. With all of this also, I think I would like to basically thank you very much for everything and open the floor for question, if any. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Gerald. Does anyone have any questions from the audience? If not, I've got one. Gerald, what do you think is the next step in terms of where you're trying to advance the project, the next key catalyst, and when we could expect that?
The key catalyst that we have for answering Anita's question is very simple. We just put a hole at depth that started at the end of April, should intersect the Campbell Shear. There's no question we will intersect the Campbell Shear. What I don't know is that I'm going to hit 10 grams over 20 meters or 30 grams over 10 meters. It's like a shear zone is a shear zone. And that's why the master hole that we're drilling now will be supplemented by multiple additional deviation or cuts that we can call. And it's a process that will take approximately 6 months to 8 months to do. One master plus 5 or 7 wedge with different elevation and different long section. You need to cover as much ground as you can with your master hole. That costs you more than $1 million.
When it comes to community relations, I noticed the proximity of the town of Yellowknife. Have the townspeople been supportive of a restart of the mine?
Well, we're not. Yellowknife is a peculiar town. I mean, Northwest Territory as a territory has about 45,000 people. Mm-hmm. Yellowknife itself is 20,000 because of government, because of the support for the diamond mines that are basically on the decline. So within the next 5 to 10 years, there will be no more mine in the Northwest Territory. So yes, the town is very supportive. We do a town meeting post-pandemic and pre-pandemic. We've done in person to invite anybody in the population to come and visit. We share our view. We've already told them that we don't plan to put the mill back into town, but we would like to put it near Crestaurum because I think there's a lot of benefit to it. First of all, you avoid the noise, the dust that a mill creates. And of course, maybe you bring a few trucks through town to go to the mill, but I think 20 kilometers is nothing for people to go to work and come back. This is a beautiful project where everybody goes home at night. Where when we go to the drill site, our coffee is still warm, right? Even if it's minus 40 out there. So I think there's a lot of advantage, and we're very open to people, the First Nation, to everybody, to make sure that any question, any need they have, we're very supportive.
Are there any questions? No. I'll ask one more, and I guess it's just big picture. Where do you see the company going, and in 10 years from now, what do you think the company will be?
We'll be hopefully a unique gold Canadian producer with high-grade focus. We're not there to produce 5 million ounces. We're there to produce good quality ounces and support community in Canada.
Thank you. You certainly have great high-grade hits. So and with that, if there are no other questions, I will close that one out and give people a couple minutes to grab a coffee.
Thank you.